Well, guys, don't let the scene behind you fool you. It is December 8th, and we are about to do something that should have been done a long time ago. Our winter coop setup. Well, we have gotten exceptionally lucky this year with winterizing our chicken coops. We are December 8th, and we still hadn't done it. Now, it's still in good shape. It could have made it for the winter, but I'm glad I'm doing it today because tonight we're going to start dropping below zero, and I just would rather have it done before it gets too frosty and cold, and just in case there's any moisture in these coops, we want it to be cleared up before winter. So I'm going to take you kind of through what we've got so far, and we'll go from there. As most of you know, we use a deep bedding method year-round. We put lots of shavings in, and more shavings and more shavings. So this has basically been in here since our spring clean out. Now, I've already started over here. You can kind of get an idea of the depth we're looking at. Probably 6, maybe a little bit more than 6 inches. And this has broken down amazingly. Like, this is going to go on the compost and it'll be ready by spring. So we're going to get this cleaned out so that we can start the process all over again. You do definitely get quite the buildup under the roost there. At midsummer, we do clean that out just because it does get quite the accumulation, and that becomes hard work later in the year. It might be hard work today because we are late getting set up for spring. But we're going to keep going on this. This is the old ladies one. I call them the old ladies because they're all of last year's or older birds. None of the birds in this coop right now are from 2022 hatch. So I'm going to keep going on this, and then we're going to kind of talk you through setting this up for winter. All right, so we've got this one cleaned out. It actually cleaned up really, really, really good. But we're going to show you in a second here. There are some moisture areas and things like that that are of concern. One thing we do find is when using the deep bedding method, it does pay to stir it up throughout the season. And that's something that we're terrible at. As many of you know, we are terrible at kind of keeping on top of things. So because the chickens are out so much, there really was very little in the way of manure in the building. It was a lot of shaving still and very, very dry. So let's take a look. So you can see in here, there is quite a bit of moisture along that one wall. That isn't from the chickens. That's actually from rain because we're not exactly airtight in here and toasty. But that's the beauty of that deep bedding method. There's a little bit of moisture at the front as well, but for the most part, it's at the back where the roof slopes and the rain kind of drips in. One thing we also found here, we've got a little spot in the middle. This is from us cheating in the summertime and locking them up with water in their coop. Now, in the wintertime, no water in the coop. You want to avoid that if at all possible, because that just puts moisture and condensation in, which can be bad once you get freezing temperatures. But definitely don't forget also clean out your nest box, scrape off your roost. One thing you'll notice about that roost there is we do the 2x4 on top with the 4-inch side up. This is much better for the birds in the wintertime to keep their feet covered with their feathers and help prevent frostbite. All in all, we are cleaned out, and we're going to get a new layer of bedding back in here and a few other little tidbits. So at the moment, Chris is working hard here, putting some wood ash down on the floor everywhere, also in the bottom of the nest box before we put new bedding in there. This is just something kind of similar to how you'd use diatomaceous, how you say it? Diatomaceous, I never say that right. Anyways, diatomaceous earth works at killing bugs and mites and things like that. Whether that's really a problem going into winter, I don't know, but it's better safe than sorry. So we're getting that layer down, and then I believe we're going to do shavings next and some dried fall maple leaves on top. So there's the nest box with no nesting material yet in it, but you can see the wood ash and just kind of shook it around and turned it all over. So the ash even got on the lid, but we want that kind of all the way around so that we can kill any bugs or anything that might be in there. And another thing you can see in there, Chris also put the ash right on top of the roost, just to kind of help with any leg mites, things like that. So one of the most important things that go into the coop in the wintertime is a dust bath box. Now we have a video on our dust bath stuff, which we'll link above, but in that video you probably saw we used a little round tub for it, and it was just too small for the rooster. The hens did okay, but the rooster not so much. So this year we're changing to these cement mixing tubs, and at this point we only have the ash in there. We actually didn't think ahead and take sand out of the pit while it was dry. So now it's wet, so we have to dry some sand by the wood stove in order to add to this. But at least it's a start, and the chickens will still use that ash, and it'll be wonderful. But ash is everywhere in the coop now, and we're going to bring in some shavings, and we'll be just about set. So in has gone our layer of dried leaves. Now, this isn't required, but this is something that we have plenty of in the fall, and we just box them up and they work perfect for a bedding material. We're still going to have shavings over top of this, but it's a light fluffy. They break down. The chickens love to dig and scratch in them, and hey, it saves a few pennies. And through the magic of television, just like that, shavings are in and it is ready for the chickens. Now, this is not super deep yet. We've got areas probably maybe 3-4 inches deep, and some of it not deep enough, but we do add to this all throughout the winter season. So it will get deeper as we go. We start with this and kind of go from there. This works great for an insulation as well as helping with any extra moisture that is in there. It gets absorbed into the shavings and things like that rather than being detrimental to the birds. And kind of last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about the actual coop itself. This is a winter coop, and as you can see, that door is wide open there with the wire mesh hardware cloth. I think it's 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch, so it keeps all the pesky critters out, but lets lots of air circulation in there, and that is something that is important. The birds can handle the cold, but they can't handle when you've got extra moisture in there, and the extra air circulation from this, and also that little gap that I showed you at the back of the building under the roof, just gets the air flowing a little bit. We definitely know that the roof needs some work on this. It was designed before we were wise, and definitely needs a bit more of an overhang in order to help prevent that moisture from getting into the building. It would also be nice to have a little bit more overhang on the front just to protect us from the rain too when we're dealing with them. But this is in the cards to replace, just maybe not too soon, but stay tuned because who knows. So really, that is our winterization process for our chicken coops. Any questions? Definitely write it down in the comments and we'll address that as we go. Again, as you've seen in our videos, and if you haven't, definitely go back and check out one of our videos about the partridge chanticleer. We raise a hardy chicken. This chicken can handle being in a coop like this at -30 for multiple weeks at a time without any issues. But definitely look into the breed you're raising to see if this design works for you. It might not. You might have to do a little bit more because some birds are a little more delicate than ours. But hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a few things. And stay tuned to see if I got the rest of the 5 done.